It off wrong before we even got going. Hi investigators, Mike Evans and Casey Pine back with episode 127 of Spy Curious, the Australian private, government and corporate investigation weekly news program. Oh boy, have we got a lot of news for you this week. How are you, Casey?
I'm wonderful, well rested after my holiday.
Okay, all right. So enjoyable holiday in the school holidays. Did you have nice weather?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was better than expected. Not as much rain as was forecast, so that always helps with a beach holiday.
Fantastic. Okay, people, one of the reasons I started Spy Curious was to create a positive community for private, government and corporate investigators around Australia. What I noticed on social networking, it was an unsafe place for lady investigators because of the comments being made by people in those private networking groups that people gravitated to because they thought they would be joining a supportive community in there, and all they did was find the exact opposite. So with Spy Curious, we've been building that community, and I like to consider that all boats rise with the tide, and people have supported Spy Curious in its efforts. The downside of that is sometimes we have very sad occasions. And if people, you wouldn't mind sparing a thought for Andrew Bulldog's wife, Lisa. That's Andrew Bulldog on the left of screen, squashing Chris Badham, and I'm on the right. Andrew's wife, Lisa, is in ICU in Melbourne. She entered the hospital with COVID-19, was cured of it, and then got 2 infections afterwards, and it's a very serious matter. Andrew's part of the Australian Security Academy, AirLab, and investigation community in Victoria. He gives to everybody that needs advice, help freely. He's a great bloke. He's highly respected in the industry. He's a stalwart at CHS Investigations, and he's having a very tough time at the moment, just having recovered from COVID himself, and with his wife, Lisa, who's an Australian Security Academy student in ICU. So very negative start this week, but if you wouldn't mind, with your faith, to spare a thought for Lisa and send her well wishes and thoughts of being better soon. We hope that's the case. Andrew's a great guy. We've had him on the program, and we'll have him back on in the future when things work out better. Good on you, Andrew. G'day, Chris. So sorry about that, people. It'll be a sad start, but like I said, we're a community, and that one had a high impact on me when I found out that today. So that's something that's just came to light this morning. Casey, you've been hearing a lot of vacancies for crypto investigations.
Sure have. There has been a ton, specifically because the police have no idea what to do when they get them. It's hard enough.
So that they've been contacting you in regard to it, and it's outside the sort of the job advertising network. It's been mostly by word of mouth and phone, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. It's been interesting because when you're active on places like LinkedIn and coming up these live streams like me, people find you and they find your email address and they say, hey, can you please apply for this job because we desperately need you.
That's right, my word, they do. So thanks very much, Kelly. That's really thoughtful of you.
Yeah.
Really, really kind. And guess who's there? It's George. G'day, George. And he's sucking up Casey by saying he missed her last week. She was really worried about you, George. She was sunbaking and swimming at Burley Head. Great to see you, mate. So where am I? I've got to come back here. so I can find out where I was. This week, people, I advertised a job earlier in the week. You won't believe this. This is great. So I advertised this job earlier in the week. If you read it as headline, I want 40 factual or surveillance investigators urgently. And it's an Australian national icon blue chip client. And my client has Australia-wide 40 positions available. Now, I advertised that. And people started contacting me saying, is it available in Parramatta? Now, can I just go back to that job? I'll just show you again. It says Australia-wide. And then I got another one. Is it available in Perth? Right. Where's Perth, Casey?
In Western Australia.
In Western Australia. I think that's going to fit Australia-wide. So, people, if you're not sure if where you live in Australia that you're watching this is in Australia, in the comment section, okay, just post where you live, Hobart or, Broome or wherever you live, and I will tell you if that's in Australia for you if you don't know. Okay, so I hope that helps. I don't mind helping. Like I said, I'm there to support. Thanks, Renee. That's really kind of you to support Lisa. Really kind of good. Good to see you, Executive Vice President Renee, who became an associate member of AirLat this week. So kicking some goals there, Renee. Good on you. So yes, people. So if you're not sure where you live is in Australia, you might be in Tasmania, and that could, like Flinders Island or something. That could be borderline, but ask me and I'll do it. Now, that was a really great job, that one. It's very similar to stuff I've done in my past. They wanted those investigators to identify things that were large, and the investigators will then call in where they are, and they've gone missing. There's 1 million of them missing, and the investigator will call in where they are, and basically the organisation will go and pick them up. Now, that's what that role was for, and I think they've got their 40 investigators now. We were overwhelmed and in under Melbourne.
I think that's Victoria.
Yeah, I think we'll give you a thumbs up there, George. You're in Australia. Well done, mate. Good on you, mate. God. That's great, George. Thanks. Anybody wants to confirm where you are, right? I'll let you know. George, that's great. Very, very good sport, mate. So, none of the people that said that were Australian Security Academy students, so I was really pleased about that. Excuse me. My job for my pick of the week job this week is the AFL down in Melbourne, which is in Australia, where George lives. Basically, they've got a COVID risk and corruption lead investigation, compliance lead investigate job available. So that's a great job on offer down in Melbourne, which is in Australia, as I said before. So, here we go. What did Renee say? Melbourne Regional. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's tricky. And it could be borderline, Renee. You got to ask, why do I keep coming back each week? Good on you, George. So that's a great job, and you'll see every job I'm just about to talk to you about here on this Facebook page, Australian Private Investigator, Corporate and Government Investigation Jobs. And 30 new members have joined that page this week. And I think there are some 1,600 people that get notifications of investigative job vacancies daily now in their Facebook page. So just ask to join that page. You've got to ask, I'll approve it, and you can see what jobs are out there available. All of these ones are. So we've still got our Crypto Geek currency job for the Australian Federal Police. So that's available. This one's still showing up on OIS Global with Steve down in Melbourne, which is in Australia. I think we've confirmed that. And yes, I've just got notification. They've looked it up on Wikipedia. Melbourne Regional is in Australia. So that's big breaking news at the moment. Relax, Renee. Melbourne Regional in Australia. Okay. All right. So let's chill out about that. This one we had last week with the DOJ. Always call it the DOJ, and if you refer to it as that in your communications, their ears will prick up and you'll get that job, apart from having a diploma in government investigation. They're still looking for a licensed private investigator for LKA down in Hobart. Doing factual investigation jobs down there. I was speaking yesterday to Rob Gray from down in Tasmania, and Rob's been established down there with Sage Management for quite a long time, and Rob is very busy down there doing a whole lot of government work down there. So there's a lot of work down there in Tasmania currently. One of the hints that Rob gave us once in one of our training courses in Tassie was he had to do a investigation in a big TAFE college. And what he did, he found he was just hitting, brick walls all the time when he was interviewing people. They were holding their cards pretty close to the chest. And he gave our class a little bit of advice that I've used myself. And he said, if you can find out in the workplace where you're working, where the smokers go and have a smoke, go there. And in that relaxed environment and have a chat, you'll find out a lot of information that people aren't giving out. So a little tip there for the investigators. You want to find out what's going on in the building authority? Go around to the smoking room and check out what's happening there. Hang on, I've got another comment. Renee's very happy that she's in Australia in regional Victoria. Good on you, Renee. So yeah, Rob Gray, I was only speaking to him yesterday, very busy down in Tassie with government investigations. So that's happening down there, as are LKA, who are looking for investigators. Wise Workplace, looking, what's that one? That's not Wise Workplace. I've named it wrong. So CHEP are looking for an asset protection specialist down in Melbourne, which is in Australia. I think we're pretty well right with that now. A compliance manager for UE in Brisbane. They've got 2 jobs going there at the moment. One's a private investigator required for UE internal, and I had a student graduate on Tuesday, and I absolutely guarantee she'll be the person that gets that job. I'll keep you updated on that. Victorian Ombudsman. So again, when you're talking about Department of Justice, call it the DOJ, if ever you're talking, to sound like you're in with the Ombudsman investigations, you say VO, because that's what they call it. The Court of Appeal is a COA. So, but the Victorian Ombudsman, sound professional, call it VO, and you speak their language, okay? And look at the money they're offering. It's pretty good. Down in New South Wales, they're looking for a state inspector for the Department of Customer Service. They're paying $124,000, almost $125,000 for that role in investigations and emergency response. If you go and have a look at this job on our Facebook page, they're also giving you $100 a week in personal expenses, which they pay for. Never heard of that before in my life. Sounds dodgy, doesn't it? But that's what they're doing. The Inspector of Municipal Administration is, from the DOJ, is looking for an inspector down there. That's on our jobs page. They're offering up to $101,000 plus super to inspect local government areas. More on that later. Here's one that's got right up me today. They picked the wrong day to advertise this. The Security Licensing Directorate down in New South Wales Police Force in Sydney are offering you $110,000 to duck shove complaints and investigations from people about security licensing. If you don't know what duck shove is, here's duck shove. It's called avoid or evade responsibility or an issue. So Cameron Smith, you're in charge of SLED, and I hope you're watching this, and the minister's going to hear exactly about what you do duck shoving in relation to those things. So I have no faith in those investigation roles. All you got to do is say, that's sad. That's too bad. That's sad. It's not our responsibility. You'll have to go to another department. You'll get paid $110,064 to say that. So if you're a master of duck shoving, you can go and work for SLED in New South Wales and tell them Mike Evans sent you. Senior Advisor for Compliance, and I'm sober, Senior Advisor for Compliance and Essential Services Commission in Melbourne. That's on offer at the moment. Complaints Officer, this is a real complaints, not sled ones where they duck shove. This is where they deal with it, down in Victoria, is on offer. Good supporters of our program here, and they've appeared on our program on Fridays. MJM have opportunities for general insurance investigators. Brookside have opportunities for general insurance investigators as well. Now, what does that mean? They're doing work for Suncorp Metway and for Allianz in general insurance. They've won the contract Australia-wide, both those organisations. Now, you must be approved investigator through that system, and they'll get you approved. Don't worry about that. You have to be a member of an industry association to do that work for Allianz or Suncorp Metway. So if you're an Australian Security Academy student, you're a member of AirLab automatically from the day you start studying. So you don't have to go and pay $280 a year in COVID times for being in a industry association that never meets, that doesn't feed you any information. So in relation to that, what I've done now, big announcement, our February AirLab meeting will be a little bit about general insurance investigation. So for your continuous professional development points for that, in our AirLab meeting, we're going to go through a general insurance investigation in relation to something that was stolen and how it all works and how that goes. And you will get your CPD points for that as an AirLab member. So people, if you're not signed up as an AirLab member, which is free, get in touch with me or Casey and we'll send you out your electronic badge so you can take part in that CPD for general insurance and apply for this job with Brookside and apply for this job with MJM. There's a District Fisheries Officer in Northern New South Wales. Casey, Northern New South Wales, is that in Australia?
Yes, I believe so.
It's be near the border of Tweed Heads, though.
Yeah. Oh, it's dodgy. Like.
Yeah. We'll put it in as dead. Back to Tasmania, which is in Australia, but is not allowed to have a team in the AFL. They want a director of biosecurity operations. Look at the money they're offering for you as the person who gets that job with your diploma of government investigation from the Australian Security Academy. $170,580 per annum for that role to be Director of Biosecurity Operations. That's a compliance role. So Diploma of Government Investigations will do very nicely for you to be able to take that role and earn that income. Kerrigans are seeking factual and surveillance investigators in Melbourne and rural areas of Victoria. So we've just found out that that's in Australia, so that's good. And Quantum Corp want investigators in the Northern Territory. That's my 40 factual and surveillance investigators that were wanted earlier this week. That job's now filled. Now, this is really common work for investigators. People don't often know it, but what will happen is Telstra, for example, will have a need to have 100 investigators Australia-wide to go around and collect Telstra communication boxes or something like that. And you'll have to go and load them into your car and take them back to your investigation office, and Telstra will come around and pick them up. So I've done this time and time again throughout my investigation career, and it's the same thing that's going to be done there, but that job's now gone. AMP have got an integrity, privacy, fraud and whistleblowing compliance officer position. That's about everything. That's a full house. So great opportunity with AMP. Ipswich Council, a lot of our students have started off at the Ipswich Council and gone on to bigger and better things, but Ipswich Council investigation roles are pretty good. And Visy want a safety, isolation and permit officer for recycled paper mill. As an investigator, I used to just about basically camp at Visy and do investigations into people that fell into Flexo Martin machines. And last job is a case investigation lead at Rio Tinto. So people, that's over 20 vacancies and one duck shove job, well, 2 duck shove jobs because there was 2 of them, that are available on that Facebook page. Casey, what have you got for us for our CPD for this week?
I have a OSINT tool. So this is one of, I know we're not allowed to say favorites, and I know we're not allowed to say that we rely on things, but the more tools you have that can pick up different pieces on the internet, the better. So, and this is one of my favorites, mainly because it is free. The more free tools you have, the better. And this one is called Spiderfoot. And if you have a play around with this, it looks complicated to begin with, but there's so much that you can do. So you sign up to Spiderfoot. You can either download it and run it in your Linux system. If you have a VM up and running, that's very technical for some people. You don't have to worry. You can just chuck in, oh, this keeps moving on me. You can just chuck in your email address. So just sign up with your email address. They'll send you a code and off you go. So what this does is that you can go in there and you can put in a domain name or a host name, an email address, any IP addresses, subnets, networks, phone numbers, usernames, Bitcoin addresses, human names. You can put that in there, and then you can run a scan, and it will scan the internet for little bits and pieces that it finds in regards to whatever you put in there. So I will show you just what it looks like. So on the right here, for those who are more technical, if you do put some API keys in, you will get better search results. But I ran a search result today on a well-known cryptocurrency scam site. I thought I'd just show you. It's only just finished scanning. The scan took ages because it found quite a bit. Sometimes the scans are quite quick. So if you, for example, are investigating a person and you know they have a website, you can put in their website and it'll pick off all the different little bits and pieces that it finds on the internet. And that usually doesn't take too long when you run a name. But if you've got a well-known scammer that you're looking at, they've been around for a while, most likely. They're pretty good at what they do by now. So I thought I would share my screen when I figure out. I've only been away for a week and I've forgotten how to do these things. Share my entire screen. Allow now. So this is Spiderfoot. And so I've ran this website and it's only just finished scanning, and it has some correlations here which are fantastic. So that's usually really good data. So there's 1 high, 1 medium, and 4 low. And underneath you can see the data elements, which is a whole bunch of different information. So co-hosted websites, there's 99 websites there. Linked URLs, which are internal, raw data, HTTP headers, web content, Wikipedia page edits, physical addresses, which is always interesting. So we can jump in here. So these guys are professional scammers. They've been around for a while, and as you can see, they've got an address here in Scottsdale, Arizona, Sydney, Australia, Jefferson City in the United States, just a whole bunch of places where they've been targeting people. We've got more United States, and these guys are actually operating out of China. So these are they're very good at hiding their information, and they use a website to obfuscate their information. But these are all really interesting things. So you can see which different places that they're actually hitting. So in Australia, like they say they have an office in Australia with the Australian scam. They say that they're Australian. They say it's an Australian cryptocurrency trading platform, and that's how they get you. It's very, very sophisticated, very complicated, and really interesting. So if you go over here, you can see cookies, SSL certificates, IP addresses. There is a heap of information here. You can see that there are over 993 total data elements, 609 unique data elements, and the errors. So, and the high correlation, which gives us, you can just click on this and it gives us information on our publicly accessible PBX list. And some things might mean some things to you, others might not, but this is quite a complicated example with a lot of data. But when you are doing, sorry, I'll just remove that screen so it's not doing that anymore. But when you go through that data, you will have, if you just run a name, for example, or someone's website, that the different things that come up is really interesting. So you might get a business that you didn't know that they had registered with ASIC. You might find other websites that they have registered. And even ones that they have like side projects, like if they're into gambling or racehorses, maybe they've started up a blog or another little side business about it. There's a heap of information that you can get from Spiderfoot. And don't ever be afraid of these tools. I am not overly technical, but I have the curiosity and I have the motivation to learn and get better and hone my skills as an investigator. So don't be afraid to give it a try. Go in, put your email address in, and just have a click around. Just see what means anything to you, like an address or another email and things like that. So it's a really handy tool to give you those extra pivot points and that extra information that you're looking for, because it scrapes a lot from the internet. It's very, very good when it comes to open source intelligence. And that's it.
Well done, Casey. Well done. And as Renee says, that's excellent. Great information. Thanks for that. I've just got to take that out because I'm bringing one in. From what you're about to see from now on, this is all Michael Evans's personal opinion, fully on Michael Evans, 100%. It's got nothing to do with any other member of AirLap or the Australian Security Academy or the investigation community. Okay, so what I'm going to share with you is basically, last week we talked about 300 security guards who had their licenses taken off them by the Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division because they all had the same referee. Now, the Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division are not going to stand for that. So what happened was immediately a couple of days after that, ASIL put out a podcast in relation to it. Tim Sell, at the time from ISTA, got on that podcast, and you can see Tim's part of that podcast there, and he tells us that ISTA had trained 200,000 students since it started. So that means since July 2019, if that average has stayed, they've made $95 million, 230,000. So $95,230,000 worth of income from government funding down in Victoria. That's what Tim said at the time when he was a director. I don't think he's a director now. And you can see what he says on our YouTube channel. You can also see what former LSD, Licensing Services Division Chief Inspector, David Detman said, how people think when they're doing the wrong thing in licensing training in Victoria. They go, they can't touch us. We're going to have to do something really bad for a long time. They'll never find out anyway. So we're right. That's what David found when he shut down all the RTOs that he shut down over licensing in Victoria. Finally, and you'll see this on our Australian Security Academy web channel, all-round good bloke, Peter Johnson, said that you've got to go and identify the root cause of that and do something about it. And ASIL will get rid of any of its members that basically do the wrong thing in relation to licensing training. Now, they've got to do that. The reason they've got to do that, people, is if someone holds a qualification and they've got a role as, I don't know, a government compliance officer, for example, and they're going to work for local government expects them to act ethically. enforce compliance appropriately, not be susceptible to bribery and corruption or anything like that. So I'm going to give you an example of when it craps out. So what happens if the person is trained by people doing a dodgy and they work for the local council? So I've made one up. We've got the Pineapple Coast local government area, and the council has sent an inspector out to investigate Bazza Old Mate. There's so many people in Queensland called Old Mate. I didn't know that until I moved to Queensland. That every second person is called Old Mate. So Bazza's got a lot of relatives, and Bazza is from Beak Services Chicken Breeders. He's got his own chicken breeding association, or a business, sorry, not an association, and he knows how bribery and corruption works. And he's done his homework. He knows this compliance officer's been trained and issued a certificate by a dodgy registered training organisation that was shut down. So here's how it craps out when that sort of thing happens. Like Casey, I'll just try and remember how to share my screen. Here's Bazza Old Mate. Things pretty good up here in Pineapple Paradise. Yeah, what can I do for you, mate? I'm going to have to give you a ticket, and I'm going to have to confiscate 10 of your chickens and your cock. I see. Right. What qualifications have you got, mate? I've got a certificate in government investigations. Right. Where did you get that from? Yeah, I got it last year from blah, blah. Yeah, I got it last year. Ah, from that place from the local government authority that got shut down. Yeah, that's the place that got shut down by ASQA. Oh, that place down in Melbourne that was shut down by ASQA. Yeah, I hold a certificate in government investigations. Right. I'm an ex-cop. Yeah. How much is this going to cost me? I'm giving you a ticket for $7,500 and I'm confiscating 10 of your chickens and your cock. I'm not paying that. All right, I'll give you 50. I'm an ex-cop. Oh, okay then. 100. No. Yeah, okay then. $100 and a blowjob. Hang on. Okay. That's better. Now, put your hand up if you want one of those dodgy compliance officers coming around to speak to you about your noisy chickens or your barking dog or something like that. That's how it goes, and it's going to leave a nasty taste in your mouth if you accept that sort of thing. Yes, it might be a little bit exaggerated when they do this sort of thing in the registered training organisations in Victoria. It's known as the joke. That's what they call it. So they're getting away with it, like David Detman said, and they don't think they're ever going to get caught, but the problem is they are going to get caught. Now, it's a very serious matter. The Victorian Licensing Regulation Division take it very seriously, and they will put an end to it eventually. ASQA were responsible for it. ASQA were notified about what was going on the 20th of April 2020 and elected to do nothing, and have left this mess for the Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division, the Office of Fair Trading in Queensland, the New South Wales Cappy Licensing, and the Victorian Police Fraud Squad. So Yeah, that's right. The jokes just keep getting better and better. Did you like the pineapple? I really like that, because if you're in Queensland, you have a pineapple and you got to have Bundy rum. What am I going to do with this, Casey?
Oh, you're going to have to wait until Christmas to make rum balls.
Yeah, all right. I'll probably give it to somebody.
Send it to George. He's going to need it after
this. What about the rum, George? Don't you get him excited? Okay, people, so I've just got to check what I've done to make sure I've covered everything and gone 5 minutes over time. Done that. Yeah. So when you've got regulatory compliance that fails, like ASQA did in the Pineapple Coast situation, yeah, it might have been another chicken breeder that was complaining about Bazza. Good on you, George. So what it is, it's like a traffic cop going to you, pulling you over and saying you're doing 60 kilometres an hour and giving you a ticket. That's today. And then tomorrow same cop pulls you over and says, oh, you were going 50 kilometres an hour and giving you a ticket. And then the next week he says you're going 40 kilometres an hour and giving you a ticket. So, 98% of the teams playing in this competition are getting free hits, kicks and favours from ASQA, and ASQA's doing nothing about it. 20th of April 2020, they turned a blind eye to it. It's disgusting. The number one condition of a Victorian security business licence trainer is the licence holder must not subcontract out the provision of training to another registered training organisation or licence holder. And that means that clause 8.5 of the Standards of RTOs 2015 says you have to respect the laws of each individual state. And that's another thing that was missed in that case. So a lot more to come on that. If you go to the Australian Security Academy, if you own an RTO in Victoria and you're interested in what's happening, you can go to the Australian Security Academy website, and if you play a couple of the most recent videos, you'll see everybody involved in it named. So worth a look and a find out. And it's increased of late as well. So there are still people holding qualifications that are affected by that applying this week and right through to the 30th of October. Disgusting behaviour enabled by ASQA. I started out by telling you that the whole reason for doing this show and for creating AirLab was to create a community for investigators in Australia. As I said, it's my humble opinion that all boats rise with the tide, and people that assist each other, that ask each other, that help each other, that's what we're about in this community. We are fully behind, as a community in investigations, Andrew and his wife. And I can say on behalf of every member of AirLab, every Australian graduate student, every Australian instructor, like Chris in this photograph, Casey, Alex, Pat Flynn, Lisa Cass, all the other investigators that come in and teach at the Australian Security Academy, particularly the Melbourne-based ones, all members of the AISP in Victoria. Our thoughts are with you, Andrew, and our thoughts are with Lisa. Thanks for watching, people. That's the end of our program this week. We're going out in the usual way.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
Oh boy, I've just got one more comment. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for your comment. Thanks, George. Goodbye, George. Thanks, Renee. Thank you, everybody else who's going to be watching the replays of this over the next coming days. We'll see you next week. And don't forget, next AirLab meeting, we'll have CPD points for general insurance. That's something to look forward to. Is Casey going to say good? Yep, she is.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.